When it comes to some of these projects like Ondo, I really do think that it's very important to focus on the infrastructure in which they are creating. Ondo is a very special project simply because of what it is providing, not for crypto, but for the institutional players and also TradFi players. Right now, when we really think about some of the tokenization platforms that this space has in it, a lot of people really kind of tend to talk about like Securitize, for an example, or even Franklin Templeton, and a few other ones like Wisdom Tree. But when we think about tokenization platforms, Ondo should be on everyone's radar, not because of the money tied to it, but because of how much traction Ondo has generated for itself over just the last 12 months. If we are talking about money, though, right now the tokenization platform side of this market has about $12.55 billion in total RWA value tied to them. Now, Ondo is actually number 3, and there's only 2 RWA assets on the platform, but it has almost $1.3 billion. This is a very significant amount. In fact, it's 11.2% of the RWA market share. Securitize and Tradable are two, platforms that we actually can't buy into. We can't invest in them. Ondo is number 3 with over 11%. Also, by the way, over 15,500 plus RWA holders of Ondo as well. And I'm not talking about Ondo itself, I'm talking about the underlying assets that are tied to it. Now, also, if we actually look at the holders, this is actually up only about 1.63%. But the main thing that I'm actually looking at is the total value in the last 30 days. This is up almost 15%, 14.63%. And we could see that big spike just from the beginning of May to where we're at now. In the beginning of May, it was $1 billion roughly. And now, well, we're over $2.58 billion. This is extremely exciting to see. Now, when we also think about that, this is the Ondo RWA league table as well, which, by the way, investing into some of these projects as well will be very profitable because it is tied back to Ondo, because the networks in which Ondo is releasing some of these things, like, for example, US Treasuries, we could see the amount of money on these networks, and we could actually invest in these underlying networks as well and get exposure to not just Ondo, but these other networks in which Ondo is working with. This is also why I have said in the past that, XRP is going to be tied into Ondo. Like, these two are going to be connected, and I'll talk about why here in a bit. But let's actually first start off with Ondo, and I want to actually talk about the chart. So right now, as we really think about Ondo's total value in the last 30 days, this is up big. When it comes to the chart, it's really not. In terms of price-wise around Ondo itself, we're actually down significantly. We're down about, if we think about the actual amount, let's actually go back to just the middle of May where we had this nice spike to like $1.13. We're down about 32, almost 33%. At our current price, it's about 25, 26%. But I want to actually focus on this because I want to focus on the long-term view, the macro. And the macro goes all the way back to March of 2024, where we have this first initial setup where we have this nice spike to the upside. We hit the macro trend line, then we start to sell off into, March and the summertime. Then we have a nice little chop here. This is all consolidation, by the way, in an uptrend. And then we get that big spike in December. Now we're selling off yet again. And as you guys can see, we're doing something very similar to this area where we have, a chop. But if you look at this, if this is going to be our bottom, this is going to be our low for Ondo, we technically have a low and a higher low. We already have higher highs. This high is higher than the April highs. This is bullish structure. This low should be our higher low setup for Ondo, where we start to chop in a nice uptrend, very similar to this, point back here, and then we finally break out. The confirmation of the breakout will be above these highs, but also above this trend line. This should take us to these December highs, and we should technically hit about $3 from this point. Now, I'm not saying $3 is going to be the topping point. I'm just thinking about this logically, and roughly $3 or $2 and like 80 some cents should be the next stopping point, very similar to these lows down here. So Ondo has a solid setup here, and we're back to prices that we haven't really, seen or have been able to buy at. Obviously this year we've, hit some of these lows, but you got to think about it like this. We're back to levels that we hit back in March of 2024. We're back to levels that we hit back in the beginning of November before that big spike to almost, $2.14 or 15 cents. So we are actually at a very big opportunity level on Ondo at a time where the RWA value around it is growing significantly. Also, Ondo volume since March is picking up. This is also great to see because it means that we are starting to see inflows into Ondo. We're starting to see buying of Ondo as well because of the volume going up. And on top of this, right, increased volume, increased value. This is showing us that Ondo is not dead. In fact, there's actually a lot of eyes on Ondo and some big money is pouring in. This is great to see. And I do think that this is just the beginning for Ondo, because I think that the long-term view around Ondo is this will be probably one of the most valuable crypto products around the TradFi side in terms of like bringing Wall Street on chain. But also this cycle, I think that Ondo is going to be a giant because of the RWA narrative being so huge. But outside of this, let's actually talk about a few things. Number one, we recently talked about this big move with JP Morgan and Chainlink. You guys probably, missed that video. If you didn't, definitely, you already know about how big this is. But if you did miss it, I think that you should all go check it out. This is a huge move. But on top of this, we did hear from Ondo Finance CEO Nathan regarding, this big move. We have who said tokenized US treasuries are only for DeFi native users. Ondo Finance CEO joined NYSE live to discuss our collaboration with JP Morgan and Chainlink to integrate bank payment rails into Ondo chain. Ondo's latest transaction with JP Morgan demonstrates how deposit holders at JP Morgan can easily access Ondo's tokenized treasuries and other tokenized products. Ondo, tokenization built for the mainstream. Check this out.
We announced a transaction where an investor used tokenized bank deposits from JP Morgan to subscribe to the tokenized treasuries that we offer on public blockchains. These tokenized treasuries provide investors with the ability to transfer value 24/7 globally, peer-to-peer, while earning yield on their savings. And we provide 24/7 conversions between stablecoins and tokenized treasuries. So this is a product that has appealed largely to crypto natives and to investors that come from stablecoins and want access to treasuries. But until now, the product has really been largely inaccessible, or its benefits have been inaccessible to investors that don't come from the crypto world, that don't already have stablecoins. So, for example, folks who have bank deposits at JP Morgan. And so, once this rolls out to production, it opens up the ability for deposit holders at JP Morgan who might not already be holding stablecoins or have crypto wallets to very easily 24/7, over the weekend instantly subscribe to our tokenized treasuries or, tokenized products from us or others more broadly.
So if we really think about what Ondo is doing, right, this is what I said. Ondo is bringing Wall Street on chain. It's Wall Street's, it's the big banks, it's all the TradFi giants. Ondo is an enabler of this. This is huge. Now, like I said, I do suspect that Ondo will be connected back with XRP, with Ripple, some big, very large players from the space. And the reason why I say that is because even if we go over here back to just June 5th, here we have Ondo's Finance's Chief Strategy Officer and APAC Sales Director will be attending Apex 2025. This is XRP Ledger Apex in Singapore. Don't miss Ian's fireside chat with Ripple President Monica Long on June 12th as they explore how tokenization and institutional DeFi are transforming capital markets. Wall Street 2.0, Ondo Finance on the future of tokenized finance. At this event, I do think that we're going to hear some discussions on how Ondo and Ripple are actually going to work together to make this a reality, because we already know Ripple has been fully focused on institutional DeFi and even transforming capital markets utilizing XRP and the XRPL. this is very exciting. Now, on top of this, this actually reminds me back to the OUSG deployment on the XRP ledger, where if we actually go over here, this was in response to this on January 28th. Here we have, following today's announcement with Ripple, we are thrilled to share our next Ondo Summit featured speaker, David Schwartz, CTO at Ripple and one of the original architects of the XRP ledger. He set out with a goal to bring global money transfers into the 21st century. With his leadership, Ripple has worked to simplify cross-border payments, introducing solutions that connect traditional financial institutions with a decentralized future. In 2023, David declared that real-world asset tokenization will drive the blockchain economy, a belief we deeply share at Ondo and one that fuels our vision to revolutionize Wall Street. We are delighted to host a visionary who believes in the potential of blockchains at scale. We share our own vision for the future. So again, a lot of heavy discussions happening between Ondo with Ripple players. This has been going on since January. On top of that, we actually have over here, Ondo, Ripple, Chainlink, Blockdaemon, and Uniswap are all on stage at the Ondo Summit. This is from February 6th. This is DeFi 2.0, Wall Street meets blockchain, where we had David Schwartz. We also had, Chainlink there, Uniswap, a few big players, but the fact that Ripple is having these close discussions with Ondo tells me that these two are working together closely. But on top of that, let's actually take a quick look at just how big the scope is that, Ondo is really focused on one big market, which is, of course, the capital markets. We have over here that what stablecoins did for the dollar, Ondo Finance is doing to capital markets. This is Wall Street 2.0 flooding on chain. If we actually go over here, we have what stablecoins did for the dollar, Ondo is doing for capital markets. Speaking with the street, Nathan explained the financial system wasn't designed for the world we live in. It was stitched together over centuries. Just as stablecoins brought accessibility and composability to the US dollar, Ondo Global Markets is bringing these same principles to capital markets. How big is this? Well, number one, let's actually go over here. We have stablecoins made the US dollar globally accessible, instantly tradable, and fully composable. Ondo Global Markets will unlock the same upgrades for US securities. US securities, US treasuries and equities represent $28 trillion and $62 trillion in market value. So we're talking about $90 trillion. But does it stop there? Well, no, because this isn't titled Ondo US Markets, it's Ondo Global Markets. So when we think about this, we go over here and we read this. The global capital markets are vast, with the total value of global equity markets reaching $115 trillion in 2023, and fixed income markets at $140.7 trillion. This is huge. If we're thinking about the scale here in which projects like Ondo will reach, because of specific things like, for example, global markets, a platform that they created to bring all of these markets on chain, and specifically Wall Street 2.0 on chain. Right now, we're talking about Ondo at a $2.6 billion market cap, where the scope in which they are targeting the amount of money in the hundreds of trillions, and we're just scratching the surface with almost 6 billion. Yeah, Ondo has a lot more to do and a lot more to accomplish. But they're going to do this with players from the space like Ripple or Chainlink. And the reason why I say that is because let's go back to this February 6th discussion, right? We had Chainlink there. Let's go back to this post. Here we have Ondo working with JP Morgan and Chainlink. Key players from the space are collaborating and working together to make sure that this big revolution actually happens. Ondo and Ripple, with all of these discussions, with all of these integrations as well, it's only a matter of time until we see a big partnership between these two to really target a specific use case. And no, I'm not just talking about, a deployment on the XRP ledger, because that's just a very simple and basic thing. We're talking about two of these big leaders from the space like Ondo and Ripple working together to achieve something the size of, for example, bringing capital markets on chain. I look forward to seeing where this space is in a few years. I think that a lot of these great players from the space like Ondo or Axelar or Ripple or Quant or Hedera, I think all of them are going to start to work together on this, because what we are actually witnessing in front of us is a rewiring of the entire financial system, and we're bringing everything on chain all at once. It's very exciting to watch, and it's very exciting to witness, because we are in the beginning stages of this. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.